This is the One Life Podcast, episode number 2 with Rhonda Smith, brought to you by One Life Fully Lived, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping you learn how to dream, plan, and live your best life. Let's begin today's show. Welcome, everyone, to One Life Fully Lived podcast. This is your host, Maddie A., and today we have an amazing guest, Rhonda Smith. Rhonda is a lifestyle architect and success coach who I actually met through the One Life community, and our friendship has blossomed into something very special. She has brought a lot of value to my life over the last few years since I've known her, and her story is extremely inspiring, which we will touch on today. She's a very in tune and present being, and I think you guys will get a little taste of that on our interview today. So why don't we dive right in, and welcome to the show, Rhonda.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am super glad that you're here, and I gave you a little bit of a formal intro here. I'd like you to kind of share in your own words, who is Rhonda Smith?
Well, Rhonda Smith is a being that's obviously on her own journey as well. I mean, it's a lifetime of progression and transformation, but I'm a being who has become really present and really understand the power that's in now and in this moment. I spent most of my life living for other people, living to please other people, self-abandoning, and really not allowing myself to understand my feelings or to understand the emotions that I was going through. So I would distract with many things, with shopping, with people, with you name it, drugs, alcohol, sex. Let's be bold. Starbucks muffins. Let's go the whole way here with this. So literally, it's very interesting because all my life I was trying not to feel my feelings, just to really understand and learn that we are feeling beings and we need to be able to feel them. So I'm just really trying to master this process and help others do the same and understand that we don't need a pill or we don't need to self-medicate or self-soothe to be able to feel our lives. And the sooner that we actually allow ourselves to feel these things, the sooner we'll be happy and joyful and living in joy.
That's amazing. And I think everybody at the end of the day just wants to experience that, eternal euphoria of happiness. And so rewinding back a little bit before we dive into what you're doing today, you've had so many pivotal moments throughout your personal life. It sounds like now in your professional career. Take us back a little bit to kind of how some of those earlier events and milestones impacted you and got you on the path that you are on today.
Well, I found myself as an adult at the age of 30, about 34, losing my job when the economy went bad and my marriage was over. And I really didn't have resources set up. I was really living externally for stuff and to fit into society, having expensive cars and living a lifestyle I really couldn't afford. So when that all crashed, it left me in this really terrible place, which actually ended up being my greatest gift. I took a lot of really bad roads. I ended up becoming a severe drug addict for 4 years and leading myself into destruction of almost being homeless. And then one night I finally was like at this crossroads where I had to make a decision, and it was a really pivotal point. And I asked my higher power to be able to come into my life because I had never really experienced any kind of connection. And the next day I woke up and I had connection for the very first time. And from that moment, like, my path was very different. It was all about doing what was uncomfortable and doing what I didn't want to have to do for change. This path led me on a way to become a vegetarian, to remove chemicals from my life and toxins from my food, and to really be more clear. And once I got to this other point, I was ready for purpose. I was really ready to live my purpose. And that's when I found One Life Fully Lived. And I went to the first conference and it completely changed my life.
Wow. So you've been around from day one. And how did you officially get connected with the community, and what was so appealing and attractive about what One Life Fully Lived stood for?
Well, when I had that pivotal moment in my life where I knew I had to have change and I literally had connection to something bigger than myself, from that moment I knew there was more. Like, I was like constantly desiring and just starving for more. And I came back to my little town of Portola, and there really wasn't a lot of that going on here. So, I was like seeking and seeking and seeking. And Tim Rode, the founder of One Life, grew up in my town. His dad was a teacher at our school, and I knew of the Rode family. So I saw a post one day on Facebook that said, come to our conference. It's in Reno, and it will change your life. And I didn't think I'd be able to afford to go. I had to borrow the money to go. And I went to the conference, and I'll never forget hearing Christopher Lochhead talk about living a legendary life, and that you can have any life you choose, and just the mindset piece. And I was like, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And it was instantly a fit. And I had no idea what the direction of my life was. I had no idea how to make any of it happen. I had so much growth in that point from coming from where I had been. Now, I had massive success in my career. I'd worked for JP Morgan. I had done these things, but coming back from the dark road that I had, I was really in need of some growth. So Tim kind of took me under his wing, and I got to start working for One Life. And over a little bit of about a 6-month or 8-month period, I finally figured out what I was meant to do, which was coach. So One Life, the community supported me in all of this, and I did a coaching program and created a real tribe of people going in the same direction. It's incredible what you can do when you find like-minded people.
I love it. So let's dive into a little bit about what you're doing today. And before we talk about your business, one thing that I'm very fascinated with, and that a lot of people who are successful and purposeful and driven in their lives, is they all seem to have some kind of anchor or trigger that sets them up for success early on in the day. So for you, is it a morning thing, or are you more productive in the evening? What areas do you feel your kind of strengths lie in, and how are you setting yourself up for either the next day or the current day through your routine?
Well, I have a routine. I have read The Miracle Morning, and I do implement some of those pieces. I don't implement them all in the morning. So mine is more journaling at night or different things in the day. But meditation has been the most foundational piece. And I'm so glad we got to touch on this, because without it, I wouldn't have the transformation. But I notice a lot of people just putting in the time of their 20 minutes or 30 minutes with meditation in the morning, or sometimes it's even just 10. And I'm finding now, like, I'm getting up at 3:45 in the morning so that I can have 2 hours to meditate. And the more time I spend, I know, but
2 hours.
2 hours, about 2 hours between creative visualization and meditation. And I just gave up caffeine, and my diet is so clean. I don't really drink. I don't eat meat. I don't do all of these things. And I'm finding each time I remove one of these things, the things that are coming in meditation are way deeper. So I'm no longer using the guided meditation route. And it's unbelievable the ability that we have within us when we have no external distraction and we're in the quiet of just listening to ourselves breathe and our hearts beat. I found this incredible gentleman. His name is Philip Shepard, and I'm reading his new book. I do highly recommend everybody on the planet to read this book. It's called New Self, New World. And it really teaches us about embodiment. So avoiding that anxiety piece and those external things, and getting back into ourselves through almost like Kundalini meditation. And what's happening, and the information I'm getting from my business and in my life and in the work I need to do on myself just to be a better human, and how I can give back. And the information that's coming, it gets greater and greater and greater every day. So for me, meditation is my total anchor.
Yeah, meditation has been for me a significant turning point personally in my own life, as it's allowed me to reflect inward. I used to get, very anxious in certain, areas of either my personal life or in business, or, I think everybody experiences some level of anxiety around things that we might harbor, fear in. And when I allowed myself that time to check in, significant transformations started happening, and the intimacy I started feeling with myself, my environment, the people around me, it was very transformational. So I have a question for you though. How the heck do you get from, I still struggle with, say, a 30-minute meditation, and I thought that was long. How do you get to a point of doing a 2-hour meditation and effectively staying engaged?
Meditation doesn't always mean we have to be engaged. Like, a lot of times when we go, especially, okay, I want to say this for new meditators, like, I didn't, it was 154 days before I had a successful Zen meditation, which I thought was the only way you could meditate. And I kept doing it. I just kept doing it. I kept doing it. I kept doing it. So don't think that you have to get to this place where it's just total quiet and you're all inward and it's all awesome. Like when we have our thoughts and our feelings that are coming to mind, especially when we're new meditators, that's a really successful meditation because we're actually releasing the energy of those thoughts so that we're actually more clear throughout the day. So there really is no perfect meditation. It's whatever it needs to be. So I kind of allow it to be more. So I was doing more guided, a lot of Deepak. That's how I got started. A lot of guided. So I just kind of had some place to follow. And I found myself, my mind wandering and stuff. And then I allowed myself to just kind of go with the mind wandering. And I realized that a lot of the thoughts that were coming to me and a lot of the things I was feeling were literally my connection to the universe and to source was actually guiding me on a journey. So necessarily those thoughts weren't preventing me. It was actually teaching me and showing me what I needed to see. So being in that space and having more creative visualization, kind of dropping yourself into the ocean or into a white puffy cloud or whatever works for you, to go into a space to visualize that, and then just kind of allowing. And the more that you stop resisting and trying to make it be what you want it to be, and you just allow, that's when the really deep messages come.
Yep, just be. I think
be.
You just hear so many people say that, and I think when you truly experience meditation on a deep level for the first time, that all makes sense. I know for me it really did. And a great friend of the One Life community and of myself, Brett Jennings, who we call Buddha, he always kind of inspired me to go deeper into that just be mentality. And when I was struggling with, letting thoughts come and go, because it's okay to have thoughts during meditation, he explained it as like, well, just imagine that you are sitting on that puffy white cloud and all of a sudden a thought enters your head and you feel disrupted. It's kind of like sometimes you're holding on to this balloon and all of a sudden the balloon, the thought, starts pulling you off, out into the universe. All you got to do is just let that balloon fly off and just let it be. And you'll rest back, comfortably on that cloud and go back into that connection with, whatever source may be. So I wanted to kind of take a little bit of a shift and hear about some of the exciting things that you got going on in your business and how you're really helping people design their, life of their dreams. I mean, One Life Fully Lived, Dream It, Plan It, Live It. We have so many amazing people in this community that have had transformational breakthroughs through, the collaboration and the resources and tools that One Life Fully Lived provides for all the awesome people in it. And I would like to know, what have you utilized and leveraged from our community, and what are you doing today?
In the beginning, it's really essential, especially when you're starting something over, to have light. So to go to the light. So have amazing tools to kind of flip you out of your anxiety and kind of flip you out of your funk, to offer yourself some ease. I think that's super essential in the beginning. And I learned a lot of these great tools from a lot of the people in the community, and a lot of them came to me on my own, and they're part of my program. So that is something that I do offer, especially if someone's going through grief or going through a really difficult time, or really starting to try and manage their life without types of pills or with, other substances. So that's a big piece of it. So I got that from One Life. But the one thing I really noticed over the course of this last year is that I was flipping everybody into the light, and I was flipping myself into the light, meaning I was going to the good and just focusing on what I wanted to attract, the law of attraction, and all of these different methodologies that I had learned, and all of these different beliefs I had, and it wasn't always working for me. And I'm a highly sensitive being. I call myself a sensei. Like I'm very emotional. I've always been highly feeling, and I didn't really know how to handle those feelings. And I actually think most of us are on the planet. So now, I'm offering some ease to my clients, but we're going to the wound. If we just say, law of attraction, let's focus on our vision boards and let's focus on what's important, on what we want to attract, and we just kind of say, okay, but that's not existing, but I'm still waking up having anxiety each morning, there's a wound there. There's something there that needs to be looked at. So saying, okay, I just need to get up and get to the gym and I'll be feeling better. I've actually spent a little bit more time with myself, and I'm doing this with my clients because I still suffer from anxiety. I think it will be something I have my whole life, is let's be in the feeling. Let's be with it. Let's find out where it's coming from. And we're actually peeling back these layers, incredible layers of self, and really exposing the true self. And it's incredible work to see somebody, like I have a lot of clients that have addiction. I have some clients that just are basically addicted to having stuff, and they've created this life of success and they're not happy, but literally they don't really know what it is that they truly desire because they've never really felt into their feelings. So spending a little bit more time understanding that we are feeling beings, and that those feelings are there to tell us something. They're like lights on a dashboard. So rather than just avoid them or ignore them or just focus on what's positive, sometimes we have to spend a little bit of time in our dark shadows and uncovering those things, so that when we do progress and move forward, that we can actually, understand why we have those feelings and move through them better, so that we're not just avoiding.
Yeah, I think that you brought up a great point. I think, a lot of the times we just sweep our fears under the rug or anxieties under the rug, and yet we don't give them the rightful attention that they probably deserve in order for us to really level up in that area and become more effective and powerful in that space. I was reading kind of an article the other day about mastering your fears, and going back to almost like ancient war rituals. These native Indians, they would go through every scenario possible that they were scared of, and they would kind of like premeditate on it almost, and run through all of these examples of things that just scared the crap out of them. And in order to become more powerful and effective in that space, when something like that could have potentially risen, they had already been through those scenarios so many times that it allowed them to minimize or eliminate the fear in that moment, and they powerfully moved through any of those pre-limiting obstacles they had created in their mind. And that's something that I think is extremely, extremely powerful, and yet not very much talked about, is this idea of fear. So many people avoid it and kind of push it off to the side, but when we tackle it head on, what would it look like if you were to eliminate or minimize the fear in many of those areas maybe that we have anxieties around, physically or mentally?
Well, that's ironic. I use this tool in my coaching, and I've done it myself. I visualized the door, and behind the door was this animal or something, and it was really trying to get in. It was just banging, and I was terrified of whatever was behind the door. And I was in a room of dark, so I can see light around it, a lot of creative visualization. And I literally spent about an hour and 20 minutes when I did this for myself. Each person's different. Grabbing all the experience that I've ever been fearful, or I've ever, really not honored myself in, and I did stuff to make other people feel good and not create harmony in myself. Like, I went through all these situations in my life, and I grabbed them all, and then I went and opened the door, and I'm like, come get me. Come and get me. Let me feel all these feelings I've never allowed myself to feel. And there was so much healing in that because I confronted them all. So it's the same kind of thing when we stop avoiding the things that hurt us or the things that scare us. And you got to have a coach, or you got to have somebody to be able to mirror those things off of, so you understand the process. But we're so much stronger. I mean, we're just stronger beings in every day when we don't avoid, and we just kind of say, what's really happening here.
That's beautiful. So tell me a little bit about when you're working with your clients as they're designing their businesses, or, their new life that they aspire to create. What is some of the strategies or tactics or conversations you're having around the idea of failure? Because I know a lot of people are really paralyzed by fear and choose not to move forward because of the idea of failing. And what are some of the things that you kind of use to work through with your clients?
Well, because I have such a diverse background in working with so many different people. I mean, I help people with addiction. I help people with just severe anxiety. I help people want to create purpose. I help people actually create businesses. So I have such a vast thing. It's very different in each one, but I want them to feel their feelings. And I put them in scenarios. Like, for example, I have a business client right now. We're just starting her program. And we're already creating video because I know that this is an obstacle for a lot of people. And I'm like, I want you to create a video each week. And I think her first video, she created 36 videos to be able to have one to send to me until she felt comfortable enough. But I'm getting them to face their fears, and I'm teaching, like, I understand it's hard. I'm there to support her, but all of these things are like opportunities for us to grow. Just like this morning, you know, there's obviously a little bit of anxiousness getting ready to do this podcast. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to be with this feeling. This is good. It's outside of my comfort zone. It's not my normal routine. I'm going to get something amazing from it. So I'm starting to embrace those feelings rather than to think of them as bad. The biggest part in all of this is it's okay not to be okay. It's perfectly okay not to feel comfortable. And we are all like in this society where we believe, oh my gosh, I don't feel well. I have to do something to fix it. I have to change it. I have to soothe. I have to go to someone else and tap into their energy or whatever. And that's not the case. We have to learn to be a little bit more comfortable in that uncomfort zone. And, you know, I have breathing exercises. I always recommend 25 push-ups when you're in a really stuck place. I mean, I have a bunch of
I love
tools.
that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and those are the tools to flip us out. But before that, I always ask them, I'm like, spend 5 minutes, spend 2 minutes in that discomfort, in that dis-ease, as Tony Robbins calls it, because it's there for a reason. And the more we get comfortable in that dis-ease or the discomfort or the fear of failing or all of these things, the more we grow and the stronger we are. Because I think as a society, we're kind of weak in this area.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, and the idea is, you know, failure is not the end. It's not some end all be all destination that you're stuck in unless you allow it to be. You know, failure is just a pivot point, in my opinion. I mean, it doesn't really prevent you from success. It actually leads you deeper into your journey of success. And I love what you said about the 25 push-ups. I do that every day. It's funny, in my office, I'll have people walk in and out every once in a while, and I'll be on the floor doing push-ups. I'm like, what the heck is this guy doing? Mm-hmm. But now everybody knows that for me, as Tony Robbins says, that's one of my state changes. You know,
it's a pattern break, exactly.
Yeah, if I'm feeling like I'm in a funk, I'm going to jump into the trigger points that allow me to get back into the right, you know, frame of mind. And that's for me some kind of physical exercise, because then I get those endorphins kick in, blood's flowing, and I'm feeling re-energized to kind of get back up and tackle whatever it was that, you know, I might be feeling fearful of. But, you know,
you can even brush your teeth. It doesn't have to be like an actual, you know, exercise. It's just simply, or going outside and being barefoot. That's an amazing one. Like 5 minutes with your feet in the grass or on the ground. Yeah, I mean, they're all amazing. So I would even recommend to you, if you always go to exercise, try to do something different. Because if you're always going to that same charge, you might actually get some new knowing or some new consciousness that comes by trying something different.
That's great. That's a good challenge, actually, because that is one of the things that I consistently go to because it's worked for me for so long. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I like you said, the idea of breaking out of that pattern and maybe creating something new that could complement it.
Well, we are like, I mean, we've all read like every book. We've read Hal's book, and we follow that. It's an amazing book, by the way. And we read the love languages, and we learn all of these tools, and we pretty much are all living our lives inside of these boxes of, okay, I'm going to go to that because there's 5 love languages, and I'm going to go to this because there's this. And when we start thinking, okay, beyond that box, there is no box. Let's decide for ourselves. There's hundreds of love languages. There's over 7 million people on the planet. I bet you there's over 7 million love languages if we really think about it. So when we stop using just the tools and the resources that we know and have and we've learned, and we challenge ourselves to think beyond that, that is why I think I'm spending so much time in meditation, is because I keep challenging myself. I'm like, I know there's more. What do I get to figure out? And I get to decide for myself.
I love it. Yeah, you know, and it's one of the things, going back to what we were just talking about, you know, a lot of people have this fear of, you know, what's on the other side if they actually take action and are successful at it. So what are some of the things that you work with on minimizing the limiting beliefs people have within themselves about what they deserve for their success?
Well, there's going to be a level of up-leveling, as they call it, as we grow into having more success. So I have a good friend who had incredible success this last year in her coaching business, and privately, I think she had several meltdowns as she grew. I mean, when we're learning new things, you have to have really good support, and you have to understand that you're growing at such a rapid pace that it's okay. And there is no there. You're not going to like, okay, I have success now, I'm there. We're always evolving, and we're always going to be growing. So, having new levels of success. I mean, Mark Yiggy's my coach. I have an incredible coach that I can go to, and he's experienced incredible levels of different success, and he knows usually where I'm at or where I'm going. So having that as a resource, is an incredible thing. Having people understand it's okay not to know what's expected. And as we continue to grow, especially as entrepreneurs or just people even, there's going to be the unknown, and we have to get used to it. And that a big part of that is that feeling of dis-ease or discomfort, not disease, but dis-ease and comfort, so that it's okay not to always feel okay. Like if we really want to grow and really reach our potential and step into the power that each one of us really have, I don't really think it's going to be comfortable.
It's so true. I mean, I look back personally on my own journey, and there have been so many points where I have been scared beyond belief of what am I getting myself into here? Do I really have, it's like that drunk monkey, that, inner critic that, pops up, and we all have it, of, am I ready for this? Is this who I really am capable of becoming? And that idea sometimes, scares the crap out of me. And so when I've pushed outside this comfort zone that I knew I had to go beyond, when I went through those experiences and had the revelation that, one, I can do it, but two, the growth I experienced in that process, it kind of allowed me to never go back to that same area of comfort. My comfort zone just got that much bigger. It's kind of, I constantly think of like a rubber band, you pull it and you stretch it, and as long as you don't break it, it never goes back to that same, formation of what it once was. So the idea of embracing what going outside the comfort zone can give you, and when you have that feeling of fear, instead of moving away from it, but moving towards it and pushing into it, there's so much beauty in that process. And the idea of becoming more intimate and in tune with what your capabilities are as a human being, new levels are really becoming limitless.
Limitless, yep. And we have that old ego saying, no, just stay where you are. I want to keep you safe, because that's really ego's job, right, is to keep us safe. So it's like, no, you're good here. So I'm going to instill a little bit of fear, and I'm going to say, this is enough for you. Let's stay at this little plateau. Let's stay at this little place. And it's really our job to push through that and just say, I want to be more. I know I am capable of more. And that's when you have to make sure that you really know yourself, the real, true you. Because, I was trying to create a life not too long ago that really wasn't me, because I really still hadn't connected to me. I was going by what everyone else's desires were and what society says I should desire. And that was a huge wake-up call when I was finally at that point. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go this way. I want to go this way. So, really knowing ourselves too, and then keeping the ego and just keeping it in check and telling it, no, I have more to do and more to give, because we all have such a message and such unique talents and such gifts. And we are all just way too tuned into television, and we're way too tuned into reality TV and all these external distractions about who drives what and who's doing what. And when we go inside, that's where the true magic is, and we get really clear about what it is that we want. And I think that's what's so great about One Life, is that there's so many people that are really in their power and showing others what's possible. It's just such an amazing community and such an amazing gift.
Yeah, there's so many people who have an amazing authority within the community, and they're all a guru. I mean, at the end of the day, we are all gurus in our own way, shape, or form. We all have something beautiful to bring to others and enlighten others and share with others that at the end of the day inspires and empowers. And
that level of comparison, like where we're trying to compare, like Rock Thomas he's an awesome speaker, he's an awesome guy. And if I tried to compare my life and what I'm doing with his, I would feel that comparison. I would be like, I'm just not enough and I'm not there. We're never going to have the same message. We're never going to do the same things. And I have my own knowing and my own experience. And I just use him just because I adore Rock. I think he's great. And just like with you, we're not the same, and we don't have to be the same. And when we start embracing that, we get to be two flowers that grow next to each other, and there's no comparison, there's no need for it. We get to just be fully what we each get to be. that kind of takes away that nervousness, like, I have to learn more, or I'm not quite there yet. And actually, everything you already need is in you if you'll just connect with it.
Yeah, don't compare your insides to other people's outsides.
Right. Jennifer's book,
There's
yes.
so many different things that you can easily get caught up in and can limit you from truly tapping into your strengths and full capabilities of becoming the amazing being that we all have the potential to be. So as we kind of come to a wrap up here, the last thing I wanted to talk about with you was it's always great to have a vision and project goals and things that we want to accomplish out into the future. How do you distinguish between, creating this idea of what is out there and also what's going on in the present moment and really connecting the two?
Well, understanding like your true desires is essential to know where you're going, but most of the time how we get there or and what it ends up looking like when we do get there or to that area is nothing like we think it is. It's usually better. And there might be people that aren't there that we thought would be, or there might be situations that are different. And we really have to learn to be okay with the flow. We can resist all we want as we move along in this journey, but the more we resist, the more it persists. And we have to deal with the fact that it's not working out the way that we want. If we're more in the flow and we allow, I know that I want to live, let's just say, like I'm moving to San Francisco. I know that I want to live in San Francisco. That's my goal. But I'm finding that it's not all looking the way I thought it was going to. So, being okay with that and then really being in the present. I wouldn't say, some people say to spend quite a bit of time in creative visualization. I think you should have a set amount of time. I spend about 5 to 10 minutes each morning visualizing where I'm going. I know it inside and out. I can literally grab a piece of fruit off the table in the room that I'll be living in, those kind of things. So it's that clear for me, but I don't spend a lot of time there. I try and spend as much time here, because if I keep focusing on that, then I keep thinking how am I going to quite get this to happen? Or what if this doesn't quite happen? And I spend a lot of time spinning my wheels. So I go back to now and I'm like, what steps can I do now? What 3 things am I focusing on today? Or 4 things am I focusing on today to be great and to make stuff happen?
Love it. Okay, so we're heading into what we like to call the lightning round.
Nice.
And we are going to wrap up with a few short questions answered in 15 to 20 seconds or less. You ready?
Yes.
Let's do it. Okay. What kind of legacy does Rhonda Smith want to leave on this earth?
Rhonda Smith wants to leave the legacy that we do not need external distractions. We do not need pills. We do not need TV. We do not need all of these things to be happy, joyful, incredible beings. We want to live in joy. Joy means sorrow. It means happiness. It means ecstasy. It means, all of these things. And we want to get to that place. And the only way to do it is to quit doing it externally.
Love it. What entrepreneurs do you admire and why?
Oh my gosh. My coach, Mark Yegi, is one of my favorite people on the planet. He has a level of he's achieved a level of success, and he brings a love of feminine and masculine that hold personal embodiment into each thing he does. I'm trying to think. Well, everybody in our community, you, Maddie Jason, and Brandy Salazar is a dear friend too, and I admire you both for what you're doing and for the work that you're doing internally.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's definitely reciprocated, and that's the beauty of our community.
It is.
What is the biggest challenge facing leaders and just great people today?
I think that we are not in attune with what's important. And I think that we have a tendency to go to what is about money and making money. People are not living authentically and from themselves. And it's really easy to be persuaded into believing something that isn't true. We live in a society of many, many, many untruths. So yeah, I don't think that we're focused in the right directions. And I think that this level of duality that we live in with politics and all these different facets of it are just here to separate us. And I think we need to unite.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if all of those negative external distractions were eliminated.
Even including money.
Just
think about that.
Yeah.
If we just all grew food and took care of each other and all had compassion and love for each other, we would have peace.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the world looked like.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up on the final question, as we leave our One Life community with some ideas of how they can continue to level up in their own lives, what's one characteristic that you believe in your heart every leader should possess in order to make the world a better place?
The full embodiment, to understand that we are the yin and yang. We don't have to seek things externally, that we are whole within, and that if we learned to be fully in our embodiment and drop our consciousness down to our pelvic floor and understand the magnitude of what can really happen in this process, that we will all connect. We literally will all be one.
I love it. Rhonda Smith, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. I just want to say how great it is to be a friend of yours, to see all the amazing things you're doing in your own life, the people that you are inspiring and touching. It's very cool to be a part of your journey, and I just want to say that you continue to impact my life on a daily basis when we get together and have a conversation, and from afar when I get to see the greatness that you are unrolling in your own journey. So thank you so much for everything you do, and I wish you all the continued success as you go out and blaze a trail and change the world in a positive way.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be here today.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too.
Hey guys, just want to drop you a quick note here. We have our upcoming conference in Pennsylvania, May 21st and 22nd. Space is limited though, so be sure to head over to onelifefullylived.org and register today. Can't wait to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you haven't already, please be sure to join our Facebook page at the One Life Community, or you can check us out at onelifefullylived.org. There'll be information about upcoming events, podcast guests, and some great tools and resources for you guys on there that you will not want to miss out on. Now go out, make the best of your day, and live your life fully lived.
Don't you take the day for granted. Gotta live.